Praise be to Jesus and Mary. You're listening to Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World, a podcast hosted by Holly and Mandy. Let's begin our show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World. My name is Holly, and as always, I'm joined here by my mother, Mandy. We are happy to be back for another episode this week, and we'll begin by saying, Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make our hearts like unto thine. So, yeah, another week, and happy to be back here on the Catholic Family Podcast. So, what do you want to discuss first?
Well, we had a party this weekend.
Yeah.
We had a surprise party
for my daughter, Ava. She turned 16. It was a big one, and
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16, and it's actually went off without a hitch. And I was I'll tell you, one of the biggest things we did not do was tell the children. That greatly helped.
Yeah, no children were told.
I had invited the whole school. I mean, when I say the whole school, the school is not that big. It's the school here with the sisters. And there's about, 36 kids or something?
Yeah, something like
and
that.
And what's funny about my daughter is the high school is not that big.
Yeah.
The elementary part of the school is bigger than the high school.
Yeah.
And my daughter goes to school. The high school only goes 3 days a week, but you could go the 5 days if you want.
Yeah.
And my daughter goes all 5 days. And I'm going to say a lot of the kids in the school are related to her.
Yeah.
The younger kids.
Yeah,
and
it's a huge family there.
Huge family, but she just loves being with the younger kids.
Yes.
She loves being the big older cousin and so I decided that these are the kids she likes to be with.
Yeah.
So I thought I invited the whole school because I was like, those are the kids she spends the most time with, But anyways, so when I say we didn't tell the kids, I sent out the email to all the parents at the school, but I said, please, please, please do not tell your children, because I didn't even tell my own son, because we can't.
Oh, you can't trust
him
kids.
to, But the stress of planning this surprise party, and I only planned it for I came up with this idea 2 weeks before her birthday. I don't know how people plan them for months, because I almost ruined it 3 times.
Right. I just didn't want to see her, and then you'd show up and like, oh my gosh, you're here with Eva.
But it did.
Like,
nobody.
Somebody will say something.
And
my brother is good for making jokes.
Yeah, but she was so surprised.
Yeah.
And when she came in, I almost cried, because
I almost cried.
I was videotaping her, and she just looked at me and she said, did you guys do all this for me?
Yeah.
And she said she had to try not to cry herself, because she couldn't. My daughter has had a bit of a problem with, making friends, and she's shy, and
and it's the whole traditional Catholic thing.
Yeah, so
where there's not a lot of
people. So there was a few years there where she felt like she had nobody.
And I'm just going to point this out. Just because, you're a traditional Catholic doesn't mean, you're going to gel with every single person.
So
whether you're adult or a child.
And so when she came in and she said to me later on in the party, once everything was rolling and she had come, and she came up to me and she said, Mom, I just can't believe all these people are here for me.
Right, yeah.
She's like, I can't believe all these people care about me.
Uh-huh.
And, so it was so important for me to have this party for her, because I did want to show her that, there is a lot of people that care about you.
Yeah, it's kind of important in this society that we have, that because people do feel neglected.
Yeah.
And they do feel like nobody cares about them.
And they have so much new age being shoved down their throat.
Right.
That if you're not constantly validated.
Yes, that means something's wrong.
And that's a mistake. That's a new age mistake that these kids are being told that they have to feel validated and loved at every minute of the day.
Yeah.
And it's like they're trying to overdo the validation, but it's having the opposite effect.
The one thing, I think I mentioned this before on a podcast, but it really struck home to me. I heard it on a Jordan Peterson podcast. He was interviewing, I don't know, some one of the many child people that he interviews. But they said one of the biggest mistakes was that we constantly ask children how they feel.
Yeah.
Right? He said, don't do that.
Don't,
Don't do that. And I thought, and if you think about it,
well, when they want to, they'll tell you how they feel.
they'll tell you
Like
how
she
they
just
feel.
told me, I feel so loved and cared for,
And feelings for children are very flighty.
Yeah.
They're very 1 minute and here 1 minute and gone the next minute.
Yeah.
And so when you constantly ask them how they're feeling, then they have to constantly be focusing on how they're feeling.
And they shouldn't be.
And they shouldn't be.
They should just be kids.
They should just be kids.
Children.
Children. 1 minute I'm sad, the next minute I'm happy.
Yeah.
1 minute someone stole my bubble gum. The next
minute
we're
on the play yard pushing each other on the swings.
Right.
They
like
get over things very fast.
They get over things very fast. They don't dwell on things. They have very short memories.
Yeah. Especially I find for the, and I'm going to use this word lightly, but like the negativity on the play yard.
Yeah.
Like you just said, 1 minute one kid's stealing their gum and the next minute they're playing together.
Right.
Those things are so short-lived.
Right.
They don't really, kids don't really harbor bad feelings towards other kids.
Not
unless they're being taught to dwell on it.
Unless they're being taught to do that.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't come natural to them. Right. They are more naturally to be these flighting little airhead creatures.
Yeah.
That, 1 minute, everybody hates them. Everybody hates me. And the next minute.
It's like, oh, you coming to my birthday party?
Yeah. I mean, well, we do have actually a classic case of that at the school. So I know my niece is involved in this with a little girl. 1 minute she says something. Do you like me now? Do you hate me now? Do you like me now? Like back and forth, like every 2 seconds. 1 minute, like I'm not talking to you. And then the next minute, like it's kid stuff. And it has to kind of remain kid stuff. And we can't harbor on it.
Right.
Like and dwell on it. Like you just have to give them, constant, they have to feel like they're loved. You have to do your best to, form, make sure they know that they are loved and what they have to offer is of value.
Mm-hmm. But you don't overdo it.
But you gotta not overdo it.
Yeah.
If that makes
sense. So it was just a very great, wonderful, blessed day, and it just all came together so nicely. So it was very nice to do that for her, and
but I thought we could also review, because this is a big problem in society, especially with the no contact. With the no contact, right? So I go no contact with this person or that person.
I've cut this person.
I've cut this person and I've cut that person. And we're going to just reflect and we're going to go back in time a little bit here. They did not do that kind of thing. People did not do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Before New Age.
Right.
They didn't go no contact. Or if they did, they weren't,
broadcasting it.
Yeah. I mean, this might sound a little bit rude, but I have a way that I deal with people I don't necessarily care for.
Yeah, how's that?
I file them.
I
file them. I put them in a little envelope.
Explain that. Yeah, she puts them in a little envelope and she files them.
And I file them. You're filed. And I mean, it's not to be mean because I'm not.
I think you need to explain that though, that you don't file them away and go, I don't talk to you anymore.
No.
It's just you're in a file.
You're in a file of tread lightly.
Watch
what you say. Don't expect much.
Yeah.
But
you don't cut people off.
I don't cut them off. I just file them. So
they're just filed.
So in my mind, I'm like, well, they're in the file, but I nod and I smile and I shake hands and I
try to always be charitable.
I try to always be charitable. Like, I mean, Abbot Leonard in the Christ the King Monastery, somebody said to him, like, are you wearing, I don't even know who told me this, but are you wearing hair shirts, for mortification? And he said, who needs hair shirts? We have each other, right? And like, that's kind of the, if you're thinking, because you have this tendency to think of people in a monastery, they must be all holy and walking on, but no, they don't necessarily like one another.
Right.
Like is not.
Well, and the thing is they're not that when
It's
you
not
think about when you go
mandatory.
into a monastery, a closed off monastery, they're not there for each other.
No,
They're
they're there
there
for
for
God,
God.
right?
That doesn't mean they're all going to gel,
Right. No, but they have to love one
but they
another.
have,
The
yes.
commandment is love.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like. So
Yeah.
you can have your preferences, but you have to look beyond the
It
preferences
says,
and you still have to love.
yeah.
So, back in about 2009, we went to a wedding, and I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, where it was a niece of mine, and my sister-in-law said to me that she said it was really difficult because they had to juggle this the
Seating chart
the seating
for the
chart, right?
reception. Yeah.
All over, because this person couldn't sit beside that person and that person couldn't sit beside this person. And I said, and I
And
remember this
everybody
was,
was throwing out their demands of
and
who they
everybody
couldn't sit
who they
with
couldn't
or.
sit beside. And I remember thinking in my head, that is crazy.
Well, that would have been the first time you ever would have heard something like that.
Yeah, like you
Like
didn't,
before, you just went to a wedding, and when you got to the reception hall, you looked at the chart and go, "Oh, there I'm sitting over there."
and oh goody, I get to sit with them people.
Yeah,
Like
but
you
then
would,
you go, "Oh, well, guess I'm in for a long night or
yeah,
something." Like
maybe mentally you would be like, oh, that's
I'm sitting
awful.
beside so and so.
But you would go over and you would smile and you would be like, okay,
You
hi,
would
how you
try your
doing?
best to be like,
You'd be cordial, you'd
yeah,
be pleasant, you'd keep your snide comments to yourself. Like,
yeah.
that's the way people used to operate in a polite
Well, the
society.
other thing too is I think what we've lost in the new age is that people don't care so much, or maybe not. Maybe it's not that they don't care, but they have a warped version of character.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, your character was at stake.
Yes, you couldn't
You
show
couldn't
people that
walk it. You couldn't show people that
you
you were
had a
like,
prickly, difficult
I
character.
can't sit beside so and so. You would be that would be a bad reflection of you,
Right.
not them.
Not them. Not
But
them.
the new age has twisted that you at all times have to be comfortable in your surroundings, and your mental and your feelings are at stake, and
Right.
people need
Your
to be
mental health,
understanding of
they
that.
need to understand that you can't be around any negativity. Just think about how selfish that sounds for like 5.5
Right.
seconds.
But back in the day, you never would have behaved like that because people would have been looking at you like you were the jerk.
Like, well, they would have said you're a very selfish person.
You're a very selfish person. But
You're
the new
very,
age has
shall we say, narcissistic.
But the new age has twisted it so that you're not the selfish person. People
Yeah.
need to be understanding of
Yeah.
your wants and your needs.
Right. But also too, so there's that, right? But also too, so you're having a do, and you say to yourself, who should I invite?
Who should I invite?
And the way I operate, right?
Invite everyone and
Invite
God
everybody,
sorts it out.
and God sorts it out. Do not just say, like you went with the whole school.
Yeah, I just was like,
The whole
okay, the
school.
whole school's invited.
The whole school's invited, and
You
their
know,
families,
and they're
and or these people are invited, or even in-laws and stuff. Were
Yeah.
invited. Everybody's invited, and then God sorts out, because you have to do what's right.
yeah.
So you have to do what's right. You can't throw the first insult by leaving somebody out or not
Just
inviting
because
them.
you don't like
Like
them.
in this instance, you have to decide, how big of a party you're having. In this
Right.
case, you rented a hall.
Yeah.
You rented a hall, so you could invite 1 million people
Well, maybe not 1,000,000.
but you could.
I'd say a good 120 would have fit in that hall.
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah. So you had the freedom to just invite everybody. And at the end of the day, not everybody shows up.
Right.
Right. So it's you do what's right, and then let the other people. And I'm not saying there was problems.
No.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there was
Just-
problems. But like I remember back when your sister was getting married, and it was the same thing. She didn't want to invite my husband's side of the family. I think
Right.
I've told this story before.
Yeah.
Because it was a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
And because I said no, you must.
Yeah.
You must invite them, right? And she said, and we were having an argument about this, and I stopped. We were in the car, and I stopped arguing with her. I'm like, I'm not arguing with you anymore because you're not seeing it my way.
Mhm.
And if I continue to argue with you, I'm just going to dig this hole deeper. So I stopped arguing and I was looking out the window and I was actually saying Hail Marys in my head instead of arguing.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked in the rearview mirror and looked at me and she's had this, I know what you're doing. And I turned my head. I said, "Oh, what am I doing?" And she said, "You're praying that I will do what's right." And I
So
said,
we know then.
"Oh, so we can agree on what's right."
right. Yeah. Well, because, okay, just,
so that just
I mean,
ended it right there.
In every instance, I feel like, like you can stop and you can take a minute and listen to the words that you're putting out there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want these people here.
Uh-huh.
Or I can't be around these people. Or,
Right.
I don't like these people. Like, just listen to the words you're saying.
Yes.
And then reflect back and go, am I the one in the situation that is being saintly?
Yes.
Is that something a saint would say? I don't want these people here.
Mm-hmm.
Or these people upset me. Or I can't be around these people. Nothing in those sentences is saintly.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And I'll tell you what happened at the wedding too. They didn't come. No, because
God you invite them and God sorts it out.
and the reason
And and I will say, to my sister's defense,
there was legit.
There was legit reasons and justification. There always is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying there isn't.
Right. And so they didn't.
Like, it's not like she's just like, I don't like that aunt. She's whatever.
And they didn't come not because they were busy.
No.
They didn't come because it was a personal slight against us.
Yeah.
That they didn't come. And they were like, we're not going there. They were kind of an up yours thing.
Right. But at the end of the day, you do the right thing and you.
Yeah. I said, you did what was right. What other people do, that's on them. Right? Know? So I always say, I invite everybody.
Yeah.
And let God sort it out, whatever your differences or difficulties are. And I also, if I'm invited somewhere, I go unless there's a reason I can't go. Like I don't say I am not going there with those ridiculous people.
Yeah.
I say I was invited. And and if you think about it too, there's that Bible. I always think of the novice order song. I cannot come to the banquet. Don't trouble me now. I bought me a wife. I bought me a cow.
Okay.
It's a novice order song, but it's also a Bible quote. About the banquet, right?
Yeah.
And the man has a banquet. And when people have a banquet, when people go to all the effort to invite you,
right.
They're putting on a party, and it's very disheartening to put on a party and then find out nobody's willing to come.
I mean, that also falls under the etiquette category of RSVPing. Which I do believe we've talked about that on the podcast before. But it is a very bad problem in the New Age world. A very bad problem that I've noticed, that people just do not respond. They don't show up and they don't respond.
Yeah.
And it's like, and especially if somebody throws out an invitation.
Yeah.
And there's nothing on, but especially when somebody throws out an invitation and it says, please RSVP by date, or please RSVP to so-and-so, you gotta RSVP, everybody. You have to.
Yes.
Because you have to think of it from the person's point of view that is throwing the party. They're relying on you to RSVP to know how much food to buy.
Yeah.
To know how much favors, or like whatever the event is, favors, food, table settings, drinks.
How much do they need?
Like they're relying. It's not just because they want to know if you're coming or not, just for nosy's sake.
Yeah.
They need to know so they can plan their party accordingly.
Right.
And how disheartening it is to throw a party and buy all this food because nobody has RSVP'd and you have to take a chance. And then think about all the waste you've caused that person.
Yeah, it's just so disrespectful.
It's so disrespectful. And especially as Catholics, it is literally our duty, and we have a moral obligation to be kind and charitable to people and to always put others before us.
Yes.
And when you don't RSVP to a party, what you're saying is basically that you don't care.
That you don't
That's
care.
what you're saying. I don't
You
care.
don't care that you were
I got your
invited.
invitation, but at the end of the day, I really don't care.
And maybe I don't know if I'm coming or not. Maybe something really good will come. I mean, I don't think that happens so much anymore because I actually don't think people do anything that much anymore. But back in the old days, like I remember, like in the '80s,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it first started to become a thing, and it was basically that people would wait for the best thing they wanted to
Right.
do,
And then they'd respond.
and then they would respond. So what if they said you're having a party?
But they
And
like
then
so
I
and
say,
so
okay,
better.
I'll come to your party. But then someone you really like
Jimmy
says
down
they're
the
having a
street is having
party.
a party.
And now you're stuck into this.
Yeah.
Right. And when you don't want to go to this, you want to go to that. That was a real big thing in the '80s. It was huge.
Was it?
Oh, yeah, it was huge. I
Yeah.
remember it. Like, well, because in the '80s, we did a lot. We did a lot more in the '80s than we do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it, well, I mean, I do know why.
Yeah.
Because we live more virtually now than we
Yeah.
ever did. Like people don't get away from their computers.
Right.
It is a real
And
problem.
I mean, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing too. It's like, there's no excuse for it because we know you're all on your phones.
Yes.
We know you've checked your email. We know you've got you know what I mean? Like there is, in my mind,
Yes.
there's literally no excuse for it because this is a virtual world.
Yes.
And I'm just speaking, and maybe I'm speaking out of frustration here because I am, the head of not many things, but I do run and organize a lot of things. And when people don't respond,
yeah,
it's very frustrating for the person trying to organize.
Oh, it's hugely frustrating.
And it's especially frustrating because they have a phone in their hand.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
This is not the late 90s, early 2000s when oh, maybe the dial-up's not working or maybe they haven't been near a computer.
But it's kind of funny that people, when they couldn't do instant communication, they were far more better at
the communication was so much better.
I mean, they were so much better. Like you didn't.
When you had to mail out an invitation, it was better.
Or just to call them up on the phone. Yeah, we'll be
call
there.
up on the phone.
Yeah, we'll be there. No, we can't. We're out of the country.
It's almost like, and that because you can, and I quote unquote, hide behind a computer screen.
Yeah.
That manners have just gone by the wayside.
Right.
Because you're behind a computer screen or a phone screen.
Yeah, it's really cheapened everything.
It has. It's ruined everything. And, people may say, well, but we can communicate with so many people. And we can reach so many people. But can we?
And do we?
And do we? Because for my money and for my recollection, I notice a lot more rudeness and blatant disregard for etiquette because of the computer and the phone.
This is what stays very clearly in my mind because I have these things that, over the last, 30, 40 years, people say things to me or whatever, and they just stick in my head and it never goes. And one of the things that stuck into my head was that charity will grow cold.
Yeah.
And so I always look at that, like charity will grow cold, like on how many levels?
On how many levels, yeah.
On how many levels? Like, on how many plateaus have people gotten wrong exactly what charity is?
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know what charity is. How can you practice charity? They don't even know what it is.
Right.
I mean, we've reduced charity to giving $1 at the checkout to whatever.
Right. Yeah. So.
That's what I did my part. I gave $1 to Ronald McDonald House. Or
I'm
whatever.
good today.
I'm good today.
It's just, these are all the things you think about and you just, especially when you're planning and doing things and then you remember how awful the new age is.
Yeah.
And what it's done.
It's not benefited us in any way, shape, or form.
No.
Not at all. I mean, when you talk about something spiritually.
Yeah.
Like, well, how has it benefited you spiritually? Mm-hmm. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that because I do personally find that I have benefited.
Yeah. No. I know. I don't mean, I just mean in certain ways you look at this and there's so much trickery.
Yeah.
of the mind and the twisting of the mind.
Yeah. Can we talk
Oh,
about?
yeah, let's talk about AI for a minute
Yeah,
because I
let's talk
had an
about that
incident.
trigger. Yeah.
I was on Facebook yesterday and I couldn't believe it when I saw this photo. Immediately, I knew it was AI.
Yeah.
Immediately. But I sent it to my mom and my sisters in our group family chat, and I was like, "Look at this AI. It's not even good."
Yeah.
So what it was, and actually, if I think about it, maybe I'll come back because I saved the photo and I'll put it when I
Yeah.
edit the podcast. I'll put it up here so you guys can see it too. But it was um, a mother holding two twin boys
In her arms.
in her
Babies.
arms on
In her
one side of the
boys.
screen,
They were babies.
babies, and then on the other side of the screen, the boys are holding the mother, and she's an old lady.
She's an old lady, and they're in army uniforms.
They're in army uniforms. But the years are 1954 and 2024.
Yeah.
And the boys look like they're about 25.
Yeah.
Well, there's some missing math there
Right. Yeah.
because those boys would be 70.
Right.
You know, what's the difference between 2024 and 1954?
And what?
And if they're not, if they are 70, I want their skincare regimen.
Yeah. And also what she was wearing.
And
too.
what she was like, there's no way a woman would wear that in 1954. Absolutely not.
It's not. It's like maybe the 70s, maybe the 80s.
So I knew
54.
1954 was
Yeah,
the
that
year.
was the date they said it was.
That's the date. So impossible. Even down to her hairstyle. Impossible.
Yeah.
So I knew, like, you can't fool me. I knew right away it was AI based on those two things alone.
Yeah.
And the photo quality.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not no photo from 1954, but whatever.
Yeah.
There's restoration, so fine. But whatever, it's not true. It's AI. I can tell right away. But I called my daughter over because I thought, she's got to see this. Like, we can't just, when our kids turn 18, hand them a phone, hand them the internet, hand them all this stuff and go, figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
For my mind and for my money, the kids need to start being taught. Like, my daughter's 16, and I thought this is a great opportunity to teach her that this is fake and show her why it's a perfect opportunity. This can't be those boys because it's 1954 and it's 2024.
Yeah.
So I called her over and I said, "Do you notice anything wrong with this picture?" And she did no. She thought it was she just thought it looked like a nice family. And she's like, "Mom, why are you ripping their family apart?" I said, "Ava, it's not real.
Yeah.
This can't be real, and I need to show you why it can't be real." And in this instance, it's a perfect example to show her because what's the big harm in that?
Yeah.
It's not anything immodest. It's not anything bad or evil per se, but it was a perfect learning opportunity to show her you have to guard your eyes.
Yeah.
This is not real.
Yes.
This is completely generated by AI and it cannot be real.
Yeah.
There's no way this is real. So if you're going to one day turn 18 and get the internet and be, getting Facebook or doing whatever you do,
Yeah.
I got to teach you now that you're going to see things that aren't real.
I'm going to go with 99.9999%
Percent of what you see on the internet is not real.
Cannot
right
be
down
real.
to the reels.
Right. It cannot be real and it cannot be trusted.
No.
At all.
Like, there's even the reels, even what you see, the staging of these. And I'm talking, you're seeing people on video and you're seeing them do things.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking AI generated people. I'm talking real people in stores doing situations, all the charity reels, as I call them. Like, watch me go out and give my millions to these people, these poor people.
Yeah. Oh, kind of reminds me of Jordan Peterson.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, that kind of goes
I'm sorry,
into that.
I don't buy it. I don't buy that these are real. I don't buy that anything, no one's not a paid actor.
Yeah.
I'm not going to believe something until I witness it and see it for myself. That's the world we live in.
Back in the day when I set up my guardrails.
Yeah.
That was a very long time ago. Like when I was very first traditional Catholic, and this was another one of those things when I heard charity would grow cold, that really bothered me. I was like, wow, how can that be? I don't understand it, right? Then one of the other one was that even the elect would be deceived. Like people were going to be so badly deceived I couldn't wrap my brain around that, and it scared me. And this is way before AI, way before anything. And I decided right then, I said, how do I not be deceived? I asked myself that, how do I not be deceived? So I put up these guardrails. And so I decided if I could bring it back to a saint, that was good, right? The catechism, if I could die and go on my deathbed up to God and hold in my hand a Baltimore catechism and say, I live my life by this book.
Right.
Right? This book and only this book. And old yellow books with imprimaturs. Like, and I had decided, because back in the day, back in Facebook, there was things that were going around, and they would say, I remember this, I probably said this before, but I'll say it again. St. Francis, there was this St. Francis Xavier letter that came out.
Yeah.
Where it made St. Francis Xavier sound ecumenical. Right? Like he was all about all religions are the same.
Yeah.
This is like 30 years old, this thing, and I was going around the internet, and I was like,
No.
and everyone's like, look, and they were using this as proof, and I'm like, that at that moment, I said, stop the buses right now. I don't know if that thing is real or not, but I'm deciding I'm not believing it.
No.
Unless you show it to me in an old book and an old yellow book with an imprimatur, I do not believe it.
Yeah.
You know, and I do not take anything at the value on the internet. Like nothing.
Well, even, I don't know, I went to go look it up to see if I could find anything, but they were even saying that Epiphany house was AI generated. The house that didn't burn down, the picture.
Right. I sort of saw it.
I saw it, but then I saw a post saying it was AI generated. And I thought, I don't care either way.
Yeah.
I mean, because the salvation of my soul does not hinge on that photo.
Right.
But I just thought, I just don't put any stock in it.
Right.
If it's true, great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm still going to always bless my house with Epiphany chalk.
Yeah.
Because I don't care if that photo was AI generated or not.
Right.
But I'm very careful with what I share on the internet.
That's why back in the day, like the church did not make saints all like, oh, miracle, everybody run. Yeah. In fact, they would always, they played what was called, they always had a devil's advocate, right? Because they couldn't afford to look foolish.
Yes.
It had to be a legit miracle. Yeah. So they themselves had to come at it from every angle possible.
Yeah.
Right? To poke holes in it and rip it apart.
Well, because
everybody else is going to poke holes and rip it apart.
Look at what they did to Saint Bernadette.
Yeah.
Even they came back to her.
Yeah.
Like, was it close to when she was dying even? And they're questioning her on her deathbed or something?
Did they?
I don't know. I don't know for a fact. But I was just like, they questioned her. They drilled her.
Right.
You know, like they don't just go, oh.
Oh, you said that? Oh, you saw the Blessed Virgin?
Ooh, mark that one down.
I saw a picture. I just looked at it briefly, but it was some cloud somewhere in the sky that looked like the Blessed Virgin. Oh, look at wherever. I can't remember. I think it was Greece.
Somebody could have done that on Procreate.
Well, you could have done it on anything. Or it could be clouds looking like...
Or it could be clouds looking like the Blessed Virgin.
I don't know. I don't care. I'm like, big deal.
No, I'm telling you, the guardrails are up, my friends, and I encourage you to put yours up as well, because
you cannot believe your own eyes or your own ears. This is the state of the way things are and what we live in today. You know, and not only that, like it's one thing for me to look at whatever, I don't know, but it's a whole other thing that I got to send kids out here.
Yes. That's my point. That's my exact point. It's one thing for me to see that and go, that's fake, but my daughter might not. I got to teach her how to spot the fake. Well, and not spot it, but just not believe anything. Right. That's a sad reality, but it is reality. You cannot believe anything you see on the internet.
And not only that, like what you said, like as Catholics, we're asking our children to believe that God comes down and it's the actual blood
and body of Christ
in a host.
We ask them to believe that.
Right?
We teach them to believe that.
We believe that. I believe that.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, you know, and then we have a world where everything is fake.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're sitting on a very, precarious position
Position. Yeah.
where nothing is believable.
Right. But then you're saying to your kids,
Yeah.
we're going to mass to receive the body and blood of Christ.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mom. You know, like
Yeah.
it's very, you have to, yeah. I don't know. It's like,
And I've seen like a lot of TikToks and stuff mocking that
mocking
too.
that. Oh, greatly mocking.
Tons,
It
tons.
just hurts my heart so bad. So I can't imagine how our Lord feels. But,
Yeah.
like just in the most vile, disgusting ways too.
Right. Right.
And so it's like we have to be on our guard
And
with our children.
we have to make a deliberate decision to put up those guardrails,
Yeah.
or else we will be deceived.
Yes.
And
And I mean, I know there is a lot of fighting going on about everything
right.
all over the world.
Uh-huh.
It's constant fighting, constant arguing, constant bickering, constant opinions, constant everything. And for me, for my money, I try. I don't always succeed, but I am trying really hard
Yeah.
to not even have a big toe in this world
Yeah.
because I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many enemies at the gate.
There's so many enemies at the gate, and I don't want to be a part of it. I
Yeah.
do not want to be a part of this world in one iota. I don't care.
Yeah.
What I want to be a part of is, what I want is I want to go to my judgment day, and I want our Lord to say to me, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
Right.
That is what I want.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens here, and all I care about is that I am not deceived.
Yeah.
So I pray constantly. My
and deceived
prayer
in the way that what matters.
Right. I
Right,
do
'cause,
not want to be deceived by the Antichrist should he come in my time.
Yeah.
My prayer is that I am not deceived.
Because
that's all I care about.
You could say I used to use this as a joke. I used to say all the time, well, I think the moon is made of cheese. That was my go-to.
Wouldn't
I used
that
to
be
say
delicious?
I'd say, yeah, well, the moon's made of cheese. I can believe that all day long. It has nothing to do with my salvation.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
So, I mean, I can believe that somebody landed on the moon. Has nothing to do with my salvation. Or whatever. I mean, that's just one little example. But you have to
because
separate
here's the thing
what
too.
pertains to your soul and what doesn't.
Here's the thing too. When you go, this is what we are taught. When you go to heaven, you are in the beatific vision of our Lord.
Right.
There is no more sadness. There is no more sorrow. There is no more anything except for pure and utter happiness and joy.
Right.
To be in the beatific vision.
Yeah.
With our Lord.
Uh-huh.
And you can say, and it's funny because I used to say, when you hear people arguing about certain things.
Yeah.
Worldly things, and you go, well, we'll find out what the answer is when we get to heaven.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it recently, and I thought, are you even gonna care?
Yeah.
Because really, when you think about it, how much stock people put in being right about earthly matters.
Yeah.
Think about this for 1 second.
Right.
How much stock people put in being right about things of this earth.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, I guess we'll find out when we get to heaven if I was right or not. Some people say,
Uh-huh.
And then I thought about it. I thought, well, why would you care? The earth is gone for you.
Yeah.
Are you really and if you're really thinking like a saint, and your whole focus is God, that's what it takes to get to heaven anyways.
Right.
Is to be so in love with our Lord and to not want to offend him in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
That your soul is so beautiful and so filled with sanctifying grace. That is what it takes to get into heaven.
Yeah.
Your soul has to be spotless.
Right.
Perfectly spotless for you to get to heaven. Does it matter anyways?
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, no, 100%. It doesn't matter. I
It
mean
doesn't matter.
That's why the saints were
That's why
happy.
the saints are there, because that's what they live for. They didn't want to be here.
Right.
They were willing to give their lives to be with Christ.
Yeah.
Not concern themselves with earthly
Yeah.
opinions and matters.
Right. They were happy in a hole with nothing.
With nothing. Because they didn't want to be here anyways. They didn't care about earth.
That's why. That's what I always. I mean, except for in the they cared about earth in the way that, like, say, Saint Francis Cabrini. Like,
well, the way they should.
To do charity, to do good, to put good into the world.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they cared about. Like, because they cared about earth to be here to do God's holy will. Right.
Because they put God's will first,
That's
not
God's
their
will
own.
first. Yeah. And speaking of that, I did want to talk about, we just watched, I made you watch that little clip.
Yeah.
Of Jordan Peterson, because I thought it was so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the psychological. What was it called? The psychological.
Well, it was Jordan Peterson and Michael Malice is his name.
Yeah, and it was called The Psychology of Pure Evil.
Pure
I think
evil.
It was Pure Evil.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
The Psychology of Pure evil. And it was kind of, Jordan Peterson said some pretty mind-blowing things to me, like that kind of popped my mind. One of them, because he gives this great explanation of Cain and Abel. Like, the guy, what'd you say that guy?
Yeah, that blew my mind, because I never even thought of that. Michael Malice.
Michael Malice asks about the depravity of these sicko wacko people that abuse
children.
Yeah, young children. And he asked Jordan Peterson, he said, why do they do that?
Yeah.
He said, you're the psychologist. Tell me
why
someone would do something so ridiculously evil.
Yeah.
And Jordan Peterson, which I thought was, he goes, you really want to know?
He goes, because I don't think you want to know.
I don't think you want to know.
He goes, I know, but I don't think you want to know.
And so he goes, yeah, I want to know. And so he goes, so this is where he starts his...
He starts at Cain and Abel.
He starts at Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
And he talks about, so if you're interested, you should actually go watch it.
Yeah.
And he basically says that that which is basically pure evil, right? Mm-hmm. is a direct attack on God.
Yeah.
He said that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's not, fantasies and perversions. Attack. It's a direct attack on God. Right? It's a deliberate you'd have to listen to his explanation, because he says it so well when he tells about Cain and Abel. Mm-hmm. It really was. It was kind of mind blowing. But he said a couple of. What did he? Let me just see here, because I wrote a couple of things down. He talked about the second commandment.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
And that was mind blowing to me too. Yeah. Because I've never heard an explanation for thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain.
Like this.
And okay, and I'm just going to put this out there. It's a little crazy that I'm hearing this from Jordan Peterson. But anyway, I did, and it made a lot of sense, because we say thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain, and we're very surface with that.
We're like, don't take the Lord's name in vain.
Don't swear. Like, I don't know.
Don't use God's name as a swear word.
Don't use God's name as a swear word. How much,
Well, and here's the thing, just if I could just say for 1 second though too, because I think we do need to understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong when I say this, but the commandments are a lot more deep than thou shalt not steal.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not kill. Okay, thou shalt not kill, but I can come over here and punch my brother in the face?
Yeah.
No, that commandment is so much more deeper than just thou shalt not kill. Like, you can't kill somebody, but you can do all kinds of other violence. Mm-hmm. No, the commandments are very deep.
Yeah. So this was Jordan Peterson's explanation for thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. It was, do not claim divine inspiration for furthering for pursuing your own agenda.
Go ahead.
It was scratch
Because
that
she
out.
went back and got that was his exact wording. Read it again.
Do not claim divine inspiration for pursuing your own agenda.
And I had to have you break that down for me because I was like, I need that unpacked. I gotta wrap my head around that.
I said, well, I've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
Like the problem is with everybody, maybe not saints, but everybody in general, is we always have our own agenda.
For everything.
Right? For everything, right? Like as I said to Holly, I used myself as an example. I said, my agenda here is to have a homestead and grow chickens and
have honey
and make my own bread and can
and never go to the store again.
And I'd be happy if I never had to walk out my front door ever again. That's my agenda. Yeah. 100%.
That's your agenda.
That's my agenda.
Not God's.
Not God's.
Yeah.
No, God didn't really say, this is what I want you to do, Mandy.
Like, you're not Noah.
I'm not Noah.
He didn't come down and command you to build a homestead like he did with Noah and the ark.
And I mean, I had this argument with a friend. I don't know if he ever forgave me. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, about, he said it was God was sending him to France. And of course, I said to him, no, you're sending yourself. Yeah. I said, that's your agenda.
You want to go to France.
I said, that's your agenda. That's not God's.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, the idea behind all this is that that's a little deeper. Like,
then thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain.
No, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. So that means, like, we walk around everywhere we do,
using
whatever
God's
we
name
do
for.
And we're using God's name for everything we do. Well, God, God wants me to do
God's
this.
will.
I'm doing God's will. I'm doing, and we have a hard time distinguishing the difference between God's will and our own will, because there's a really funny line there where we can't see the difference.
No, and I struggle with it greatly.
Yeah.
What is God's will here?
Yeah.
What is God's will here? And generally, time and time, if I do some deep thought and some deep meditation on it and try to really think about it, and I can think about every time I have done God's will, it's been something I haven't wanted to do.
Exactly.
It's not something I want to do.
Right.
Every time. Like, I'll use this as an example. Okay? I'm having an argument, and not that this isn't like a big argument, but I'm having an argument with my husband.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I am so right. And I know I'm right.
I'm right, you're wrong.
And this isn't trivial things. It's not anything major. And I'm like, and in that moment, I'm like, but I can't fight anymore. I can't, like, I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of this situation. And I'm just exhausted. And I hit the deck.
Yeah.
Get down on my knees and say, God, how can I fix this situation?
Yeah.
The answer is always humility.
Yeah.
That is God's will.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I know without a doubt.
Yeah.
In that situation, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Humble yourself, apologize, say you said what you said, apologize, and let's move on.
Yeah.
It fixed it instantly.
Yeah.
Humility fixes everything instantly. That is God's will.
Right.
For you to say, I'm going to put my will aside here, even though I know I'm right. I'm pretty convinced I'm right.
Yeah.
I have the evidence
to
back me up.
You probably were right.
Oh, I had every evidence to back me up and say I was right.
Uh-huh.
But to humble myself and go, it's fine. Let's not argue about it anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I said what I said.
Yeah.
Let's move on and have a good day.
Right.
Instant fix. Because it's God's will that you humble yourself.
Right, right. And sometimes God wants you to live in a hole with nothing.
Nothing. Sometimes that's God's agenda.
Sometimes he doesn't really want you to have a homestead.
You know.
Or a kitchen.
We're not bringing up the firebomb. You know, but I mean, I think like this is where it's like these are the moments, and what's funny to me is like they're not earth-shattering moments.
Okay, can we just talk about my kitchen just for 1 minute?
Why?
Because it is so providential.
Okay, you go.
It is because it is like look at look at me and my will.
No. Yeah,
I'm
look at
going to
me.
do this, and I'm going to can, and I'm going to stock
Stop
shelves,
shelf.
and I'm going to do all this. And then
Then
I
I
get this fire.
and you don't even have a kitchen to do
And
your will.
I don't have, and then God takes away the very core
of what you need to
of
run your
what I
homestead.
need to do what I want to do.
do.
Like, and there's nothing wrong with what I want to
No,
do.
there's nothing wrong with your agenda. It's
There's
not
nothing
evil.
wrong with it. It's not an evil
not
agenda.
bad.
It's not bad. Like, canning food is great.
Yeah.
But God's like, yeah, you do what I want you to do, not what you want to do.
Yeah, like, and that's what we need to understand. That's what I have to try to tell myself every single day, even though I fail miserably. But it's like, no, you got to get back up and you got to say to yourself, okay, today I am going to try to do God's will and not my own.
Yeah.
That is the path to sanctity, 100%.
Yeah.
Surrendering your will to God's, and then just like, whatever, Jordan Peterson, I mean, like, I've never heard that explained that way. Mm-hmm. But when I hear it, it does make sense.
Right.
Don't use God's name for your own agenda.
Yes.
And don't stand behind it and go, I'm doing this for God, when really you're doing it for yourself.
Right. Which brings...
That is using his name in vain.
It is. It is. 100%.
And when he said that, and then you explained it to me, I was like, oh my word, he's right.
Yeah. Yeah. When you say I'm doing this for God or I'm doing that for God, I mean, you're doing what you want.
You're doing what you want.
Yeah.
Whether it's good.
Whether it's good or not.
Nobody's not saying it's not good. That's irrelevant. But you are doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Even, I'll use my daughter's party as an example.
Right. Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with her party. It was a good, wholesome party. We had nice music.
Nuns.
We had nuns.
We had priests.
Father was there. We had seminarian there. It was a good, wholesome party, and everything in it was good.
Yeah.
There was nothing bad at the party. But, I mean, part of me is like, I was doing it for my daughter.
But you're also doing it for yourself.
But I was also doing it for myself.
Yeah.
You're
going to have a great
You're going to have a great party, and I'm going to put on the best party.
Yeah. Right. So anyway,
I can't sit there and say that it was God's will we had this party.
So anyway, Jordan Peterson, no, right.
It was your will. It was my will. That's what I wanted.
That's what you wanted, right? I mean, anyway, I hope you don't burn too much for that.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, I get what he's saying, because it's like, but that's exactly it though. If I were to run around and go to everybody, oh, God's will, this was such a great party. Look at what God put together in God's will. You can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
For your own gratification.
I mean, somebody else can do it.
Somebody else can do it, but you can't.
But you can't, because you're the one that has. So anyway, back to the psychology of pure evil. Mm-hmm. So this is Jordan Peterson says here. He said, because they're talking about pure evilness, right?
Right.
And he says this about it. He says the attractive to not. What did he say? To not underestimate.
Yeah, he said, do not underestimate
the attractiveness of moral posturing if someone else is paying for it.
Yeah.
There's no limit to the degree people okay, my writing's bad. There's no limit of elevating their own moral status people will go to falsely.
Yeah.
If someone else is paying for it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and you said, like, so the idea was don't underestimate the degree of because it's evil. The moral moral posturing that people do. And you were like,
moral posturing is evil.
So so you said, well, what does that mean exactly?
Every time I'm like, give me an example. When I'm learning something, I am a very like, I need an example. You need to put this into an example that I can understand.
Well,
that's how I learn.
The first example that I thought of was a reel I had just seen where a guy knocked on a buddy's house, and he had I don't know if he had a sign on his lawn or what he had, but he says to him, he says, oh, you're all for open borders, right? Mm-hmm. He says, you're all for, yeah, this is a free country. People need to come in if they want to come in. And he goes, great. He goes, I got these 4 Mexicans here, and they all need someplace to stay tonight. This, Jose's
and you're all for it, so
Jose's on pills, so make sure he gets these pills, and he starts handing them these pills, and then the guy has a massive shutdown,
Yeah.
because, whoa, I
Whoa,
didn't mean at
whoa.
my house.
Yeah. Somebody else's house. It's
Somebody
fine.
else's house, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of moral posturing is you're all great for the greater good as long as it doesn't affect you,
your life,
or cost you
anything. Yeah.
when someone else is paying for it. And they don't necessarily mean just with money. He means like doing the work, or putting up with doing the charity, or all that kind of stuff, right? So that's the idea of moral posturing. And Jordan Peterson also said, like, do not basically be deceived at the level people will go to do that.
Yeah.
And that it's, it's an evil.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I don't know. I think, I mean, obviously, who could get in the head of Jordan Peterson? I don't know. Like, I mean, the way he tells that Cain and Abel story is like nothing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Nothing I've ever heard. It's well worth the listen to go, because he dissects it into the psychology of that, of why Cain was the way he was, and how he has the argument with God. And it's really good, really good. And he just and he explains why it was the way it was.
Right.
And basically, he killed Abel to get back at God.
To get back at God.
Yeah.
It wasn't about Abel.
It wasn't about Abel.
It was about getting back at God.
Yeah. So
it was
anyway,
revenge.
It was revenge. So anyway, so very interesting, and there's a lot of psychology to these things, and even like, I mean, here I am, and I've never looked at "Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain" like that before in my life, ever. I mean, I thought the second command was pretty straightforward.
That's what I thought. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. Don't use.
I mean, I never do that. I'm good. Woohoo! Good to go. Like
I never use God's name as a swear word. I'm good here. Yeah,
but it's a little more involved.
More involved than that.
And I always find that everything about us is a little more involved than what we think it is.
Yeah.
So we should be a little bit more cautious. How much time do we have here?
About 4 minutes till we're at the hour.
Because I was going to throw in a virtue here. A virtue that nobody has ever heard of that would help us to be a little more cautious, and it's called fear of self.
Yeah.
No, distrust of self.
Distrust of self, yeah.
Distrust of self, right? To have a distrust of self.
Yeah.
That you do not know everything. In fact, generally, you're only hearing one side of a situation. You're never hearing both sides of a situation, or even more than both sides. You're never hearing everything that's involved with everything. Right. And I mean, so that's why distrust of self is a virtue, because God is the only one who knows everything.
Yeah.
And God is the one that sees everything. So you have to rely on God, and you have to put yourself in check all the time.
Yeah.
And this is a virtue. All the saints had it. All the saints distrusted their own knowledge, their own goodness, their own humility.
And they put all their faith
and all their faith in
trust in God.
So the minute somebody said something to them, like somebody says whatever they say, and you're just like, they go, oh, yeah, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. They had the virtue where they stepped back and they said, maybe I'm not right.
Well, and it's funny, because I always use St. Bernadette as an example, but, how could she go and stand there and talk to some of the smartest minds?
Yeah.
These people in these positions of powers, the governor, whatever he was called. Yeah. He was a governor, right?
I don't know.
Whatever he was, that questioned her, and she stumped them.
Yeah.
Because she put her trust in God.
Yeah.
She wasn't her.
Yeah.
She wasn't relying on like, oh, I'm so smart. I've seen the Blessed Virgin. I know everything.
Yeah.
No. Like, she did not. She put her trust in God.
Right. 100%.
100%. And that's how she was able to stump them.
That because she would say, well, I don't know. That's just what she said.
I'm just,
I'm just here. I don't know. I'm just here.
Well, I know nothing, but this is what I heard.
Yeah.
She didn't go off acting like I'm so chosen, I'm so blessed, I'm so,
Yeah.
she was so humble and her pride was just non-existent.
Right.
That's how she was able to do that,
Uh-huh.
you know?
So, I mean, I don't know about if anybody's hearing that distrust of self is a virtue for the very first time
Mhm.
right now or not. I know I heard it was a virtue for the very first time, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 years
You were
ago.
like, "What?
I was like, distrust of
Don't trust myself."
self? What the heck does that mean? And because I mean, back when I went down to the deep dive of virtues,
Mhm.
and I was like, distrust of self. That doesn't sound
That
like
sounds
anything.
weird.
That sounds weird.
Yeah.
Like it sounds the opposite of everything we
You
teach
teach-
everybody.
Right.
You're right, and don't let anybody tell you
Tell you
you're
you're
wrong.
wrong.
That's what
Your truth is your truth.
we've been raised on. So this
Yeah.
distrust of self, and then I realized, like after studying, I was like, wow, this could really save a lot of embarrassing moments
Mhm.
if only people had distrust of self.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
So,
So anyway, there's your virtue of the day: distrust
trust
of
of self.
self. Um, a little bit of meditation on the second commandment is a little more involved in you may not be so as good to go as you think
Think
you
you are.
are.
Yeah.
And I don't know, invite everybody to a party.
Have a big party, invite everybody. Case closed.
So I guess that's it
Anyways,
for
yeah,
today.
we'll leave it there because, yeah, we're just at the hour. So, um, thank you for listening. And we hope that you all have a very blessed and a very good and holy week. May our Lord bless you and Our Lady guide you always. And Saint
Saint
Teresa,
Teresa,
pray
pray
for
for
us.
us.